Hello, welcome back. Today is October 11th. It is currently 7:06 a.m. Today's video is going to be about perspective. So what do I mean by perspective? Particularly, it seems like I've been on a bit of a mental health kind of focus in the last couple of videos. What I mean is the perspective that you carry moving forward in life on how your life is going, on any of your social relationships, any of that kind of stuff. But to be specific, this video is relating to a particular quote or meme that I've seen on Instagram quite a bit. The original meme was essentially complaining about, life being this perpetual loop of dirty dishes and laundry, and the people kind of commenting and agreeing that it's just unbearable, it's too much. I had seen the meme like maybe 2 or 3 times, and I kind of found it funny now that I live on my own. It really is all just dishes. Okay, I don't do my laundry as much, but it really is just dishes all day, every day. And obviously there are ways to mitigate all of this kind of stuff, which I can talk about later, but the primary mitigation technique I found was eventually finding someone else who had commented that if life is a never-ending loop of dirty dishes and laundry, then that means life is a never-ending loop of home-cooked meals and comfy, clean clothes. And that is the perspective that I'm referring to. So kind of relates to one of the videos I had a day or two ago about just having the proper mindset going through life allows you to overcome struggles, whether they be mountains or molehills. Just doing a bit of research on this meme, this quote, I've seen some examples where people were commenting like, hey, people have real problems in the world, right? I mean, there's a lot of conflict in the world, a lot of just chaotic things going on, and I'm sure there's people who can't afford to feed their families. And one of the kind of renditions of this meme was someone having to share with their therapist that they were overwhelmed by the dishes. And, everyone's life is different, and I understand dishes can get very hectic, very annoying, and it's one of those, like, they're always there, right? Because you're always using more dishes and creating more of a mess. And, living on my own, I don't have anyone else to help me clean that. But having the right perspective in life can really make things bearable as opposed to unbearable. And the thing about changing your perspective is that, it does take time. It's not necessarily always something you can change overnight, although sometimes you can change your perspective overnight. It takes time. It takes chipping away. It takes, work on yourself to be able to shift your mindset and your state of mind to something more positive, something more optimistic, and to not keep hammering on those same words and kind of just have this lecture of, well, you just got to be happy and optimistic. Even a mindset that's just more functional. Like, you don't have to be happy doing the dishes. You still have to do them, whether you're happy or sad. Otherwise, they're going to pile up and the problem gets worse and worse. It's not even like I have this perspective when I'm doing the dishes that like, oh, I'm going to have clean dishes. I personally don't really care all that much for clean dishes. It is important that, I do have clean dishes, because one of the ways I mitigate too many dishes is by not having a whole lot in my cupboards. Currently, I have just sets of 4. I have 4 large plates, 4 small plates, 4 bowls, 4 cups. I live by myself. I don't need a whole lot. Part of the way you mitigate this problem of things building up is by limiting, how much you have. So if you're someone who gets overwhelmed easily, gets stressed out easily, looking at the things that cause that sense of overwhelming sense of stress, take note of what those things are and try to reduce them, the ones that aren't necessary. Some kids get really stressed out by school. I would have a time period in university where, I just couldn't manage 5 classes. And so I dropped to 4, and I found that to be too difficult. So I dropped to 3. I ended up traveling the world, rearranging my mindset, kind of coming back with more focus. And then I started ramping up 3, 4, 5 courses until I finished my degree. And it's perfectly okay to do that. It's your life. You want to live it the best you can to the best of your ability. And part of that includes just having the right perspective on things, having the right mindset. Another good example could be that a lot of people think, oh, I have to go work out. Well, shift your perspective. I get to work out. Another one could be, I have to go to work. I get to go to work. Going to work allows me to afford certain opportunities like living on my own or having this amazing podcast set up. The perspective you carry is ultimately going to seep into all that you do. And so, if you're someone who's miserable and has this perspective, so even as a teacher, I could say, oh man, these damn kids. And every day I go in thinking these damn kids. And so how does my day go? Probably poorly. But if I go into work with the mindset of every single day that, hey, I get to interact with some great people and I get to potentially increase the relationship that I have with these individuals and maybe leave them off a little bit better and I get left off a little bit better. Going into work every day with that mindset is going to make dealing with the problems a lot more bearable. And in a way, this kind of concept really connects to the idea and myth of Sisyphus. Sisyphus is a character in Greek mythology who is, punished by the gods, and his punishment is to roll a rock up a hill, and every time it gets to the top of the hill, because there's no flat spot to let it rest, it rolls back down, and his punishment is that he's forced to have to do that repeatedly. And there's a really famous quote where the author says that one must imagine Sisyphus happy. And the thing is, when you're kind of stuck in a situation like, you're gonna have times in your life where you're gonna have to do dishes maybe 2-3 times a day. Learning to enjoy that process, learning to enjoy that time period is going to be key to kind of getting through it. And if you can't get through it, find ways to mitigate it. So in that example I mentioned of the person talking to their therapist, the therapist told the individual to do their dishes twice. This individual was using a dishwasher. The dishes weren't coming out clean, and then they were complaining about oh man, I gotta wash them all by hand. The therapist said to their client that just run the dishwasher twice. No, you can't do that. Well, why not? Why can't you run the dishwasher twice? Better yet, why can't you just, I think it's kind of impossible to buy paper plates now, but buy, single-use dishes. If you really can't deal with it and you can't bear with it, then have a stack of styrofoam or paper dishes that you can just use. And then you only really have to wash utensils if you choose to use those. So to end with today, take note of your perspective, of your mindset, of the things that are either challenging or repetitive, and ask yourself, do I have a healthy mindset? Is my perspective, my mindset corroding into my experience of life and making me bitter and resentful? And if it is, then look at ways that you can mitigate that relationship, whether it be with the dishes, getting kind of single-use stuff, throwing it into the compost, whether it's, reducing some of the work that you have, your course load, maybe going from full-time to part-time, reducing some of your expenses. Sometimes you have to make these sacrifices, even though you don't want to. It's unfortunate, the world we live in, you can't always get what you want every time you want, all the time. So take note of your kind of perspective and your approach to life, and just make sure that it's aligned with your values and who you want to be, and that it's aligned with being a resilient human being. Thank you. That's it for today. Leave a comment below if you have any thoughts to share. Take care.